Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Salutations to the prophets and beloved brothers continuing to exhort the sheep in these last moments. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect listening in. The title of this epistle is going to be entitled, A Night to be Much Observed. A night to be much observed. As we approach the Passover in its season, there is some key verses that we should bring to remembrance on the importance of observing the Passover in its season on the correct day, because it is a specific day in which our power Yahweh has brought the children of Israel up out of the land of Egypt, out of bondage, right? We can expect the same scenario, if not the same scenario. We can expect to be brought up out of the land of Egypt according to the blueprint in which was laid aforetime for our understanding. Salakia. So Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 1, it reads, Observe the month Abib, and keep the Passover until Yahweh your power. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your power brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. So this is a very specific time, a very specific day, a very specific moment to observe. So when we go into that word observe, where's my notes? When we go into that word observe in the Blue Letter Bible, it's H8104. It says to keep, guard, observe, protect, save life, watchman, treasure up, wait for. So we know that logically, if we are not keeping the said Passover on a specific time in its season to save a life, to guard, to treasure up, we're dislodging the feast days. We're dislodging the appropriate time for its observance. We can only deduce that because it's specific on when we should observe it, right? And how do we observe this? How do we identify this feast days? All the Sabbaths, how do we identify them? He gave us a method to identify our feast days, our days, and our Sabbaths. That's found in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And it reads, And Yahweh said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. So you have the sun and you have the moon. The observable sun helps identify when the daytime is. And the moon, obviously, it helps us determine when nighttime is. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So this is the formula to identify your days, your seasons, and your times according to his specific calendar. And it is identified using the firmaments that he has placed in the heavens. So when we go into those specific words found in this verse, the word, sign in the Hebrew, it's H22:6. And that is signal, remembrance, a warning, a token. So it says, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So we can use the sun to identify signs and tokens in the sky. For if we go through into prophetic chapters like such as Joel and Acts, it mentions that he will turn the moon into blood before the coming day of the Lord. So that's one sign, one token, right? Another sign is the moon. When the moon crescent first appears in the beginning of the month, that marks the beginning of your month, which sets the tone for all your Sabbaths throughout the month, right? A 30-day period. Sometimes, depending on the course of the moon, whatever, it can vary, but we're using the heavenly bodies to align these days. as what he says in here and the definition of what these words mean. So sign is H22:6, sign, signal, remembrance, warning, and token. Seasons, H41:50, appointed place, appointed time, sacred season, set feast. And for days, H3117, and for days and working days. So we're using the heavenly bodies to determine these things. We're not using a man-made calendar. We're not using our iPhones. We're using these observable bodies. Yes, there's apps out there that can help us orchestrate and help us get closer to following the correct calendar by using the observable moon and the sun. But indistinctly, we're using the moon to observe our feast days and our Sabbaths. In Psalms 104, go to Psalms 104. We're not deterring. We're lining this all up. Psalms 104. Psalms 104 and verse 19, it says, He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. So right here is a definition that can be compounded with Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, and to fortify the understanding that the moon is used as the moon is the body that we use to identify our appointments and seasons. He appointed the moon for seasons, right? And seasons, again, it represents an appointed place, an appointed time, sacred seasons, and set feast. Our Sabbaths are set apart days. They're not just some ordinary regular days. The principles that are applied to high holy days are used the same in congruence with the Sabbaths. Numbers 10 and 10. Numbers 10 and 10. Numbers 10 and 10. Right? Numbers 10 and 10. He says, also in the day of your gladness and in your solemn days and the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your power. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So in the beginning of your months, it is treated as a day of observance to blow the trumpets in the beginning of your months. Your new months are identified by the new moon, using the moon, right? Using the moon to identify these days. And these are solemn days, because if you're identifying the beginning of your months by observing it, you're treating it exactly as a Sabbath. Ezekiel chapter 20. So we're still talking about Passover and observing it and treating it as a Sabbath. Also helping you to identify that you're identifying your moeds and your Sabbaths using the moon, in which he has orchestrated to be the body for you to identify those things. Ezekiel Ezekiel 20 and verse 12, he says, moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Yahweh, that sanctify them. This is a very sanctified time to observe the Moeds and his Sabbaths, right? Because they are a sign between the children of Yasharallah and the Father. These are a specific time to be observing these things. Verse 19 of Ezekiel chapter 20. I am Yahweh your power, walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am your power, Yahweh. So this is a specific day, a specific season, an appointment for you to show up. You cannot go early and you cannot go after. Although we are practicing these things, we are getting closer and closer to getting them correct before the second coming of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. And that's all in accordance to using what he has told us to do it, because everything has to be done decently in order, right? Exodus 31. Exodus 31. Exodus 31, right? Exodus 31 and verse 14, he says, "You shall keep my Sabbaths, therefore, for it is holy unto you." The Sabbath is a sanctified and holy and Kodash time to observe the Sabbath. When you go into, Sabbath, it is Kodash, and the moon is Kodesh. For it is holy unto you. Every one that defile it, it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done. 6 days are just regular days, right? But on the seventh is a Sabbath of rest, holy to Yahweh. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Just like in the Moeds, there's no buying and selling, and there's no work when you observe the Passover and these feast days, right? Wherefore the children of Yasharallah shall keep the Sabbath to observe. And we went into that word observe, right? Observe means to guard, to save a life, to treasure up. And Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days Yahweh had made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. So the blueprint of Yahweh's Sabbath is found in Genesis chapter 1 verse 31 and Genesis chapter 2 verses 1, 2, and I believe 3. But that is the blueprint for the Sabbath. There is nothing outside of that can help you align your Sabbaths up other than using what was implemented from the very beginning in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. Banging on that drum. Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 42. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is the night of Yahweh to be much observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. Like we just said, it is a very important night. It is a very important festive. It's a very important time to observe this at the appropriate time, not a minute before, not a minute after, right? And he says it's on the 15th day of the month. Now, you have to be able to know which day of the 15th day of the month it is somehow, right? How is anyone observing this 15th day that he said is supposed to be on the 15th day, right? And how are you calculating that? You're calculating that using the moon to substantiate that 15th day. And if that 15th day is holy and Kodash, then a week prior to that is holy and Kodash. A week prior to that would be the new moon, right? The new observance of the new moon. And you line that up, it's 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. A little bit, sometimes, but it's not this these random days of the week that people decide to choose. There's nowhere, that's not found nowhere in the scripture. That's outside of Torah. Exodus 12, we got that. So yeah, it's a night to be much observed. We'll go into Exodus chapter 13 and read 3 and 4. And Moshe said unto the people, remember this day in which you came out from Egypt. He says, remember this day. Remember this day. It's a Sabbath. It's a Sabbath, right? Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of the hand of Yahweh brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. Verse 4, this day came ye out in the month of Abib, right? Verse 9, and it shall be a sign upon thee, upon thine hand, and a memorial between thine eyes, that Yahweh's laws may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand and Yahweh have brought thee out of Egypt. And then verse 10, he says, thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in his season from year to year. So this is an annual thing for you to observe. And it's all clockwork. It's all clockwork. And you must observe it with what he says to observe it with, right? When we went into Psalms 104:19 and we touched on that definition of seasons, which is used in Exodus 13:10, it's the appointed time, right? The appointed time to watch these things. Exodus 12:17. Exodus 12:17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for this is the self same day that I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. It's an ordinance that we should always be observing. It's important that we remember, right? He says to remember these days. Next one, we'll go into Exodus 34. Exodus 34. I'm just hitting on the importance of keeping this set apart, holy and Kodash observance in its proper season, because it can't be dislodged. Exodus 34 and verse 18, it says, the feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, as I commanded thee, in the time of the month Abib. For in the month Abib thou camest out from Egypt. Right? And it's supposed to be observed just like you would your weekly Sabbaths. Your weekly Sabbaths are 7 days. From the new moon, Sabbath. 7 days later, Sabbath. 15th day of the month, Sabbath. 22nd, Sabbath. And then 29 into 30, going into the next month, will be another Sabbath, the beginning of your new Sabbath. Boom. Another verse where he says to be mindful of these things. The reason why it's so important, because if you're keeping the Sabbath day, your regular Sabbath day, any other time other than accordance to the moon, you're going to dislodge the feast days as well, because those two principles go hand in hand in observing them. Exodus 20 and verse 8, it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The Sabbath is a holy day, right? 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, and the 7th day is the Sabbath Sabbath of Yahweh your power, and thou shalt do no work. You can go on and finish that. So, on the set apart Moed, on the Passover, right? It's supposed to be done in the house, in the dwelling in which he intends to put his name there, where the blood is going to pass over that dwelling, right? Because a lot of stuff happened on the Passover, when the firstborn were smited. So Exodus 16, because the Passover is not a festival. You just don't go and congregate in other places and think it's a party. It's not. It's a very serious matter, because if you're not keeping that at the forefront of your mind, you might find yourself in a predicament, not adhering to what is said and observing, because it's, remember, to save a life. You want your life preserved, you have to do as he tells you to do. So we'll go into Exodus 16. That's where I was going initially. Exodus 16. And the reason why I brought out some of the verses to touch on the regular Sabbaths and aligning them with the feast days is because the Sabbath itself is a holy day to observe it. And when you observe the Sabbath, you are to be in place. There's no going out, there's no coming in. You are supposed to stay within your dwelling place, right? So Exodus chapter 16, and I'll grab 23. It says, and And he said unto them, this is that which Yahweh hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Yahweh. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that which you will seethe, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to keep until the morning. Just like when we observe the Passover, we're to prepare ourselves, the lamb, the unleavened cakes, and some bitter herbs. Again, this is a spiritual thing, but they can also be applied in the physical and preparation, having some means in case you have to get out of Dodge. 24, and they laid it up till the morning, and Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moshe said, eat that today, for tomorrow is the Sabbath unto Yahweh. Today ye shall not find it in the field. So 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. So you're supposed to gather it, prepare your Sabbath before the Sabbath of rest, your food, your provision, and so on and so forth, right? And on the seventh day, when you rest, there's no cooking, there's no nothing like that, and so on and so forth. This is not to be over righteous, but this is in preparation to be very alert for very highly observed command, right? And verse 27, and it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the seventh day for to gather, and they found none. So on the Sabbath day, people are leaving their rest. They're leaving their dwelling of rest, in which that's where the blood is supposed to be covered. But they left and did their own thing, right? And Yahweh said unto Moshe, how long refuse you to keep my commandments and my laws? He was angry because they went out. Verse 29, see, for that Yahweh hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he hath given you on the sixth day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the seventh day. So just like on the Passover, you're supposed to lock in place because outside there might be things going on. It's important to have these instructions because the warnings are embedded. So the people rested on the seventh day. Right? Let's go to Jeremiah real quick. I pray I'm not missing anything. Jeremiah 17 and 22. 21 and 22. Jeremiah 17, 21 and 22. Thus saith Yahweh power, take heed to yourselves, and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem, neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day, neither do any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath day as I commanded your fathers. So he's saying, don't carry no burden out and don't bring nothing in, which means there's no traffic going on. But you're supposed to rest on the Sabbath day, right? To rest on the Sabbath day. Again, we touched on the other verse found in, we'll go to Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 46, he says, in one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of that house, neither shall you break any bone thereof. So again, he's saying don't go and take your Passover anywhere else. And don't bring nothing in onto the Passover too, because once you're locked in place, whatever, just like when he shut Noah in on the ark, there was a time when Yahweh, our power, will shut you in so you can't deliberately step out in an unholy territory. But now that section, that wherever he placed you at, is considered holy. And if you're partaking of eating the sacrificial lamb spiritually and eating that unleavened bread, removing the iniquity, and eating the bitter herbs, being mindful of the hard bondage, right? And expecting to be rescued, to be brought out of your captivity, you're going to follow these observances. Isaiah 58. Isaiah 58 and verse 13 and 14. It says, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thine own pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of Yahweh, honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thine own pleasure, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. What's that mean? You're supposed to be locked in and following prophecy and lining these things all up. Then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahweh, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yahweh your Elohim have spoken it. So, if you are practicing the proper way to observe these feast days on their proper days, in its set settings, with the observable moon lining it all up, you can expect to be fed with the heritage of Yahweh. And you can't do that if you're dislodging it, if you're being misled. So I pray that was edifying. And again, this is just some more context going into the Passover that you may apply to your understanding, to lining these things all up for yourselves. So, shalom.